Powerful, ruthless people always seek to get into positions of greater control. That's just been human history, but somehow the mainstream media, mind washers over the last 50 years, have convinced the general public, the middle class namely, that government is nothing but good, it never does anything wrong, anybody that questions it or wants to limit it is crazy. The law enforcement handbooks and manuals and the videos I've been sent by police of what FEMA and Homeland Security is teaching them, doesn't matter if it's Democratic administrations or if it's George W. Bush, it's horrible. They're saying that if you question government, if you get involved, if you speak out, you're bad. And that's a classic example and a key indicator of tyranny out of control.
Well, one of the things that I think we need to rely on is, the fact that there's a long tradition in America separating the military from the police. George Washington, for instance, refused kingship, was offered this title, but refused to take on that role, suggesting that, it was not right for a movement in those days that was about opposing the state, the quartering of soldiers in people's houses and so forth. It was an anti-militarism that sort of founded this country, and the separation between the military and the police is kind of the foundation upon which our democracy is built. So I think one of the things that people need to look at is the ways in which that we can recodify the Posse Comitatus Act. The Posse Comitatus Act being the criminal statute which bars the military from enforcing laws domestically.
Austin, Texas is known as the live music capital of the world, and Ozomatli is a Grammy Award-winning band that has no history of causing any problems. They came to Austin, their venue was totally jam-packed. In the middle of their set, the fire marshal requested that they help get the crowd outside because it was overflowing. When they did that, police from outside rushed in on them and said, "Get people back in the bar, don't have them come out on the sidewalk." This was all caught by tourists on tape as they peacefully complied. But the police were already in that mad dog mentality and began assaulting the crowd with tear gas and then arresting members of the band, including the manager, and charging some of them with felonies, despite the fact that nothing illegal was caught on tape and no one resisted them. This is becoming a very serious pattern, not just in Austin, Texas, but around the country.
I went to Cuba, for like 10 days. And this is supposed to be a dictatorship, truly, uncut, and I was walking around pretty drunk on Cuban rum, and a Cuban police officer totally treated me with like a respect and a help that I would have never gotten in LA.
So what you're saying is, as Americans, and I've experienced this, we think we're free, but we go to foreign countries that are supposedly dictatorships, and they're freer than we are, and the police treat you with more respect than we get here in this country.
Well, I don't know if necessarily freer would be the actual thing. I think it's more of just how police are viewed and how they're trained and how they actually work in that particular society or in that particular country and culture.
So why are they getting so arrogant? Why are they laughing at us? Why are they being so out in the open about the despotism that they're engaging in, this command and control system they're setting up? It is in large part because of the electronic touchscreen, no record voting systems they're putting in. 3 of the major companies have former deputy directors of the CIA on their board of directors. The local voting machine company that we all supposedly vote on is in large part controlled and owned by Clear Channel. Clear Channel, and of course Clear Channel is a globalist organization, basically an intelligence operation. And we have Clear Channel, Mr. Mays' son-in-law, just married to his daughter, is Michael McCall, and he's the guy who's married to the daughter. They're the biggest campaign contributors to him in the new District 10 runoff race that's coming up. No Democrats running against him. Think about that. He's married to the daughter. The Clear Channel is the biggest contributor to his campaign, and they own the electronic voting machines. And the county clerk, David Dubois, tells us there's going to be no paper ballot. You're not going to have a record. There's going to be no receipt of it. And why would you don't trust us, she says? Well, no, you just got caught in 1998 double counting ballot boxes, falsifying signatures, and breaking safety seals. But the state board looked at it and said it was all a complete accident. And that was with the old system where they had to feed the paper ballots in, then it went into an electronic spreadsheet, and that too can be manipulated. But now with these new systems, there's just no record at all. Just another quick update for you in the course of making this documentary. We talked about Michael McCall running for a new special created 10th district here in Central Texas. And then magically, despite the facts saying that he would lose according to polls, he magically won, just like Senator Hagel, who owned the voting machine company, and he ran as an underdog way behind the polls, and he magically won too. So you're wondering why government's getting more and more arrogant? They own the voting machines. Out of the 5 big voting machine companies, 3 of them are headed by former CIA deputy directors or directors. One of the other big ones is run by the former head of the National Security Agency, or the NSA. And then again, others are owned by people like Clear Channel. So I think that answers the question for you. But they know that you can't handle the horror of this. Then we've got the League of Women Voters, a supposed political watchdog group running all over the country trying to block a good Republican's bill, Congressman Rush Holt's bill, to demand a paper record of the electronic voting machines. They're blocking that, saying, no, we don't want any record of how you vote. Don't be a conspiracy theorist. You're bad if you want a record. We send advisors and monitors all over the planet to these third world countries, these tin-horn dictatorships, to monitor their elections. And we demand a paper trail. But here, hey, don't be paranoid. We just don't want you to have that record. Better think about that.
Why is it that you believe what Alex Jones tells you?
Because he makes a lot of sense. There are just too many coincidences about the whole situation. I watch a lot of history. I watch a lot of PBS. I do not watch propaganda. As Hitler said, it is easier to believe a big lie than a little lie.
A lot of you have already instinctively known that something was wrong on 9/11. But you're still saying, how could elements of the government do something so horrible? How could they carry something out like this? Well, look what happened to millions of American Indians. Look what happened to African Americans because of criminal elements in the government and individuals that stood to gain by their enslavement, by their murder. So don't be naive. Look at history. Look at what all the dictators have done. Look at what's gone on in kings and queens' courts. Look at the subterfuge they had going on 1,000 years ago, 500 years ago, and then magnify that today. It's very naive to look at all the motives that the military-industrial complex had for 9/11, and then to look at all their connections with the Taliban, with the Al-Qaeda, with training the supposed hijackers, with giving public officials warnings. You cannot deny what's developing here, what's happening. You see, they know that people are on to the fact that 9/11 is a cover-up, that there was prior knowledge, and yes, even government involvement and founding of groups like Al-Qaeda. And so they put on this big WWF wrestling spectacle, this staged event, much like the election. Many of the members, business partners with the Bushes, business partners with the Bin Ladens. Remember when they first set up the commission, they tried to have Dr. Henry Kissinger as the head of it, and the media called him the independent chairman? Well, this new independent commission is no more independent than Dr. Henry Kissinger was going to be as the chairman.
What we really need is a bipartisan congressional inquiry, which has been proposed by some members of Congress, but the leadership by the Republicans has blocked it. Someday the truth will come out about how $30 billion of intelligence budgets a year couldn't follow the tracks of these attackers that were apparent for 4 years before the September 11th attack and were signaled to the headquarters in Washington in some fashion by the field offices of 2 FBI offices in the field. So a bipartisan response.
From day one, the 9/11 Commission said they weren't going to address any blame on the government. They were going to call for recommendations. And before they even had their whitewash